women entrepreneurs or females who want to buy houses, right? So, home loan. Many a times from various institutions, the ask is to have a male co-guarantor. Godrej Capital understand that there are some structural barriers in the system when it comes to female borrowers. For starters, for each of our products, whether they are secured products or unsecured lending products, we've said that you are enough. If you need to take a loan and you have everything that it takes to make you eligible for that loan, you don't need a male co-guarantor. Women, when they borrow with a purpose. They are far more risk balanced. And I don't mean that men are not, but typically this is what the industry is seeing, so have we with our own data. So it's not just a case of, us wanting to do only social good, while that's great to do as well. I think there's a very strong business case to get more and more women into the formal lending economy. Recently, we made a field visit to a place near Ahmedabad, which is where we met some of the borrowers of that fund. Woman, she was a vegetable vendor who also in her vegetable carts carries some saris because she's been selling vegetables for like
Vegetables and saris.
yeah, and she said that, because it's the same women who come and buy, and I also show them, and then the next day I get, because I'm just meeting the same people every day. So it gives a lot of confidence and independence for them to make decisions, and their value in the house is very different. When you empower women, when you enable their businesses to grow, they actually employ more women as well. Don't restrict your ambition just to what you can get from your family or the savings that you have. I think getting capital, whatever be the source of it, can be a big fuel. Don't underestimate your credit worthiness. Don't underestimate your ambition. Don't underestimate your capability. There are many people doing many things much worse than you, who are far less capable, but they have the confidence. So I do feel that there is a chance that you would succeed.
Hi, welcome to Office Tales and People podcast. Today I have with me somebody who I know from last 13 years. She started her journey when she was an HRBP. Today she's a CHRO in Godrej Capital. I'm not saying this because it's a title. I'm saying it because I know her journey personally, her resilience, hard work, sincerity, and the way she consistently have been working through the corporate world. And also something that I personally admire about her is her simplicity. Welcome, Bhavya, to Office Tales and People podcast. I'm so excited to talk to you on this podcast today.
Thank you so much, Shikha. Very happy to be here and just to meet you after all these years. It's been really nice to know you.
I know. I'm so excited. Of course, we're going to talk a lot about women, money, and I don't want to start, just like a question. I'm going to start it from where it really impacted me. When I'd gone for a student's loan, I was asked to bring either a husband, a father, or a brother. This is a story that I personally faced, but also, as you know, that last 15, 16 years, I've been working in the space of financial literacy for women. A lot of women have talked about it, and they regularly face this. What do you think, you being in the system now, how deep is the issue?
I think, Shikha, you've raised absolutely the right point, and your experience is absolutely not unique. A lot of female borrowers do face this bias, or rather, I'd call it an ask, that every time you need a loan, and let me be specific and talk about, let's say, women entrepreneurs or females who want to buy houses, right? So, home loan. Many a times from various institutions, the ask is to have a male co-guarantor. And it would be okay if the female wasn't capable, did not have the right credit history, did not have the right backing of the business or the right, monies, etc. But many a times it happens despite all of that. And I think that is what we at Godrej Capital aim to address. We understand that there are some structural barriers in the system when it comes to female borrowers. And we believe that, it's not required to have a male guarantor if you have everything that it takes. So, for starters, for each of our products, whether they are secured products or unsecured lending products, we've said that, you are enough. So if you need to take a loan and you have everything that it takes to make you eligible for that loan, you don't need a male co guarantor. So, coming back to your question, what you faced is what many women have faced, and we've heard that time and again. And that is what we responded to when we said that across our products, how do we make them more inclusive? And this is just one such lens. I'm sure as we get through this conversation, we'll talk about many other attempts that we've made at making lending itself more inclusive for the borrowers that we have.
See, one company is doing this, but saying it and doing it literally, there has to be structural change in the process, but also in the mindsets. Do you genuinely see that change happening, not just here in this organization that you're part of today, but otherwise, do you see the change overall in our country?
I do see it, actually. So at Godrej Capital, like I was telling you earlier, we've tried to make a program that is end to end, right? Which means that, as an employer, I want to get more and more women to work with me. As a lender, I want to have more and more women borrowers. Like I said, whether they're entrepreneurs, whether they want to take a home loan, anything else. I want to work with more channel partners who are women because they are a big part of the lending value chain, right? And then I look at, all of those women who might not be right now part of the formal lending system in the country, but part of the community through our CSR initiatives. How is it that we can positively impact them and try and get them into the mainstream lending system, right? So that's actually, the four-pronged strategy of our initiative, which is called Arohi, where we want to hire more women, lend to more women, work with them as partners, and also work with them in the community as our CSR intervention. So that's just us. But to your question, in the larger ecosystem, do we see it happening? Absolutely, yes, also. I think different organizations are trying to do, what they think is right for this group. I also feel that lending to women, if I were to be specific to that pillar, is moving away from just intent and being a good thing to do, but really becoming a growth driver. They are a segment. Where you see less delinquencies. I think women, when they borrow with a purpose. They are far more risk balanced. And I don't mean that men are not, but typically this is what the industry is seen. So have we with our own data. They are far more risk balanced with money. They're also more conservative, many times when they borrow just the amounts, etc.
I think they
So,
take calculative risks,
yes, they
right?
take extremely calculated risks. So I think they make for great borrowers. So it's not just a case of us wanting to do only social good. While that's great to do as well, I think there's a very strong business case to get more and more women into the formal lending economy.
So, Bhavya, my next question is that access to money is not just getting funds and starting a business, it also gives legitimacy. Do you have women's stories that you have come across that has inspired you personally or the entire ecosystem that gave you as an organization larger push to drive this agenda of bringing women as borrowers and really working through this entire concept of building a product on it? So do you have any solid stories, maybe one or two, to share with our audience?
Absolutely, Shikha. Like I said, while it makes for a great business case, but as we do this more and more, our realization has been that actually the value lies in the small stories. And, they may seem like numbers, sometimes when we look at Excel sheets, but truly how much of a difference can it make? And like you rightly said, I think more than money, it is about the confidence that you can give, to whoever is running their business, in this case, women. But I think money is what funds growth, right? And that gives a certain level of legitimacy, confidence, belief in oneself. And if I were to think of stories, let me tell you two at opposite ends, right? One, as a part of our CSR program. So actually, we're also experimenting what is the best thing to do, to be able to work with female entrepreneurs to ensure they come to the formal lending system or whatever businesses they are running, even if it's at a small scale. How can we help them grow, right? So we're running this revolving fund with an NGO. And recently we made a field visit to a place near Ahmedabad, which is where we met some of the borrowers of that fund, and we realized that just buying one more machinery for this agarbatti maker. So she had one and she bought one more, and that obviously just doubled the amount of business she was doing. Or another woman who makes these patola silk saris. A third one, actually quite innovative, I found it. She was a vegetable vendor who also in her vegetable carts carries some saris because she's been selling vegetables for like 10
Vegetables
years.
and saris.
Yeah, and she said that, because it's the same women who come and buy, and I also show them, and then the next day I get, because I'm just meeting the same people every day. And for someone, it's the ability to buy a new machine. For somebody else, it's about a working capital loan just to manage cash. Right. So these were some of the things that we saw as a part of our CSR program.
Extremely powerful, because
Yeah.
when I think we impact grassroots, that's where we really understand what exactly are we doing with this product that we are launching. So very happy to hear this.
Yeah, and I mean, just what that much means, that much money, right? I mean, for us, it may seem like 50, 60,000 rupees loan, but for them, it means a lot of money and what it can do for their business. On the other hand, I think in our lending products, right? Just getting to business. We fund a lot of growth stories. So, as an example, we hear from so many of these. Women who run their salons. Recently, I had read about a case where this lady was running one nail salon, and then with the loan she took with us, she could open two more stores. Right. So it's not just always about starting, but what you've started, sustaining that, but also being able to grow that. And I think that whether it's for themselves, that it gives you confidence, but equally for your families, who sometimes I think in our social system, many a times when women run these businesses, they seem like a side hustle. That, I mean, she's just doing some hobby which she loves. But I think only when your business has that ability to scale and when you're able to put real money into it, do you actually realize that it's a great source of income as well. It's not just some side hobby that a woman woke up one day and started to do. I mean, these are women who are very dedicated, committed, and many a times extremely ambitious, to be able to grow their business, own their own money, and do what they want with it then. So it gives a lot of confidence and independence for them to make decisions, and their value in the house is very different
I
then.
totally agree with you. I mean, you're talking from what stories you've heard, but I'm sure you and I both know that in our own families,
Yes.
we have seen so many of our aunts doing some side hustle,
Yeah.
and actually it gives money to them.
Yes.
But they've never taken it seriously because, again, they don't know how to scale, they
Yes.
don't know how to put it formally into a business. And that kind of, is there any kind of empowering journey for any entrepreneurs that you guys have planned that will give support to women who are starting their journey of entrepreneurship? Is there something like that that you guys are planning?
Also, yes, actually, we concluded one such program. So, again, as a part of our community initiatives, one program that we ran with an NGO called Vritti, right? And in metro cities of Bangalore and Mumbai, and one would assume that, women running businesses there are fairly well educated, maybe empowered, will know everything. But again, we selected like a cohort of about 150 women fairly spread across both these cities and from a diverse set of businesses to basically start with a diagnostic of what they do, where their business is at, right? And then sort of run them through a set of interventions, some of which are uniform. Let's say, for example, many of them came back saying financial, understanding, marketing support, growing the business, etc. Some of that, but equally, just tailored mentoring for some of them where they needed it specifically to grow their business. We worked with them on this journey of about 17, 18 months. And through that time, we saw that 75% of those businesses actually saw a revenue growth of 20%. The other thing that we've learned is that when you empower women, when you enable their businesses to grow, they actually employ more women as well. So, just the ripple effect that it has is not just on the person who's running the business, but equally, the multiplier effect that it sort of
Absolutely.
carries.
Absolutely.
So, we saw that as well. And like I said, I mean, these are not women in back of the beyond. right? I mean, they are very much in the cities, but even then sometimes the support that they need versus what they have,
Yeah.
in the social setup isn't exactly the same. So we recently concluded actually both those across the two cities and did the graduation. And while there are things I'm sure we could have done better and we will improve the program, but there were a lot of learnings for us in terms of where do these women get stuck. And I think our attempt through this, and there was another session that we had done with a whole room of female entrepreneurs where our attempt was just to say that, look, it doesn't matter whether you borrow from us or a formal lending institution. I think today there are lots of government schemes,
Right.
that lend to actually women wanting to start a business. You have venture capitalists. There are various sources of funds.
Absolutely.
Don't restrict your ambition just to what you can get from your family or the savings that you have. I think getting capital, whatever be the source of it, can be a big fuel for your ambition, but obviously for your business.
Lot of people think that women led businesses are riskier to invest in. What does your data says, in fact, overall, what the perception has been like in your journey at Godrej Capital?
Actually, on the contrary, our belief is that, and I was saying that earlier to you, Shikha, our belief is that women borrow when they actually come to the formal lending system, they borrow with a solid purpose. They are far more risk balanced when they look at how much money they need, how they're going to repay, what is the source of funds that they're going to repay with. And as a result of all of that, actually, delinquencies in female customers are far lower compared to their male counterparts. And that is the data that we've seen. At this stage, with the program Arohi that we had launched, we now have 3,000 plus female customers, right? And we're seeing that for ourselves. I think some of the other perceptions, while this is one of them, I think the other ones is that, say, for example, if you want to lend to female customers, you've got to make it better by way of rates of interest and stuff like that. I don't think that women are necessarily looking for a lower rate of interest. I think they are looking for ease of doing business. Just how can you make the process easier for me? Can it be better technology led? Can you make it easier? Can you not ask me questions which are unnecessary? Just processing of the loan, can it be faster? Can you give me a better turnaround time? When I meet the person, how does the person treat me? Does the person treat me as they would treat another person who was taking a loan and not a female, and put additional filters on how they're looking at my application. Early on, we were talking about a male co guarantor. Right. I think a lot of those are far more things that women need than just saying that, okay, give me a lower rate of interest. I don't think that's the case. If you're actually running a good business and you want to grow it, that's not what you need. What you need is to be treated respectfully, to be treated well, for the process to work for you. Yeah, so that's what our learning has been.
Awesome. So I'm happy to hear that. In fact, data says it, so all the more reason for everybody to believe that women entrepreneurs are to be well trusted. So thank you for saying that. I hope this podcast reaches to more financial institutions. And if it does, what is it that you would like to share with them that they must change if they want to bring in women as their customers?
I would say the most important thing is to look at your lending products, but also look at the customer journey, right? Where is it and which parts of the customer journey, along with the features of the product, where you believe there could be possible exclusion. It's a very old saying, and I've always believed in it. If you don't consciously include, you will unconsciously exclude. I don't think that in the past or in the current scenario the intent of any such organizations is to actively exclude. I think it just happens structurally that every institution wants to look at risk, wants to look at the right set of customers, where there is chances of your money coming back, where you are able to manage your monies better. And in that process, sometimes we've overlooked certain sections of the society, in this case, let's say women, but it could also be other cohorts, right? I do think that you have to go back and study the features of your product, the documents that you need, the way in which you want to service the customer, what are the questions you ask them. If you study each part of the process, we will be able to collectively, look at a more inclusive economy, more inclusive lending system, more specifically.
In the future, if more and more women must come and borrow, what is it that you would like to share with women that they must keep in mind when they are going out and borrowing money for their businesses? What is that one message or a few messages for them?
I think in our social context, the relationship that women have had with money traditionally, and it may have been like how we grow up, some of the lessons that we learn very early on in our lives, the relationship of women and money has been very awkward. It's always very difficult for women to ask for more money, to come across as more ambitious, to talk about it more openly. And so many a times, I think when we try to run our own businesses or think of ourselves as being able to be independent, asking for it becomes a bit awkward. And you just feel like, can you look at your own savings? Can you just go to friends, relatives, and see what is it that you can gather? That's one part. The other, I feel like, just the confidence that we have in, what we are trying to do. Is it really worth it? Do we really know?
Self doubt.
Exactly, what we're doing, will we be able to succeed, because there's so many people who haven't. So I think that's the other part. Overall, I'd say that, don't underestimate your credit worthiness, don't underestimate your ambition, don't underestimate your capability. There are many people doing many things much worse than you, who are far less capable, but they have the confidence. So I do feel that we should put ourselves much more out there. We should be much more willing to take risk, much more willing to back ourselves. And just see, I mean, there is a chance that you would succeed.
Yeah, there are a lot of chances. My next question is a bit too early to ask in the system that we are living in. While Godrej Capital has taken a step for women, do you see this organization or our country? Of course, I'm asking this question at a wrong time, in the wrong month, in the wrong year. Would choir be also considered as a customer base for your organization or for other financial institutions in the coming times?
As a part of our DEI efforts, we focus on three cohorts. The first one is women, and we spoke a lot of one part of women that we focus on, which is female entrepreneurs or female borrowers. But like I said, we also focus on employing more women, working with them in the community. Other than that, our big focus is also on the LGBTQIA community, employing them, so identifying, them, creating a space, which is comfortable for them to come and open up within the organization if they wish to do so. But in our working with this community, Shikha, we've also realized that housing, is a big need, right? And many a times they actually don't get home loans, specifically for same gender couples, which is where a few years after we launched our home loan, we launched a product which is for same gender couples. So, to your question specifically, we are looking at this cohort also as a customer group, not just by way of employing them, but also seeing where do we need product differentiations to ensure that our lending products are more inclusive for this community. The third cohort that we work with is persons with disability. And again, this is a challenging one. First of all, because there are many different types of disabilities, but even within each of those, there is a range that exists. So we've worked towards building our own understanding, building physical infrastructure, but also systems, technology, and enabling this group of people as we get to employ them.
Right.
But I have to say, while we have the right intent, we've made a lot of effort, but this one is a really long journey. But just to summarize, I mean, these are the three cohorts that we really are going to continue to work with, focus on, not just by way of employment, but equally by way of integrating them into our customer base.
So, Bhavya, at the end of the podcast, I just want to ask you a final question that if you and I will sit 5 years ahead from today, what changes would you like to see in the access of capital for women, choir, person with disabilities? What are the changes that you're expecting or wish that we should reach there in our country?
I think let me talk about Godrej Capital, right? Because that's directly in our circle of influence. So if I start from there, Shikha, I would like us to be a far more inclusive company. As far as women is concerned, I mean, my ambition would be to say that we should be the best company for women to work with, to borrow from, to work, to support the community with, to be partners with. So we should be the best company for women, hands down. As far as the queer community is concerned, again, I mean, I would be very happy if we are able to consistently build products, that are able to service the unique needs of this community as we understand them more and more. And, how are we able to create an environment that makes people from the community feel more at home, bring their whole selves to our workplace. And specifically for this community, our learning has been that many a times acceptance at home it's is an issue. So, with the social challenges that they face, sometimes the challenges that they face with their own families, how is it that we can make Godrej Capital an island of belongingness for them, where they can bring their whole selves to work? Finally, for the persons with disability, again, whether it's our physical infrastructure or technology that can enable them to work much better and be a part of mainstream roles and grow within our company, I think that would be work well done at my end. So we should be a far more inclusive company internally, but equally as a lending organization externally.
Happy to hear that. And Bhavya, thank you so much for spending time with me, talking about the most important and the most favorite topic of mine, which is women, money. And I really loved meeting you after so many years. Thank you so much.
It's always so energizing to meet you, Shikha. It was a lovely chat. Thank you so much for doing this. It was really nice talking to you. Thank you.
You just watched Office Tales and People podcast with Bhavya Misra from Godrej Capital. While I don't really relate her to any brand, she, in her own skin, is a very powerful leader and an inspiration to women. Do watch this entire episode and don't forget to share this OTP with all your friends.